Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I know this video is coming like a lot later than normal. I was supposed to do this like a week ago, but I've been out of town and I really struggle to sit down and film long videos. But anyways, we're here now, and before anyone asks, this is a temporary tattoo. This is also a temporary tattoo. They're not real, I promise. Okay. So I read 14 books between April and June. Which is a lot less than I read between January and March, but it's still more than I normally read. So I'm going to recap those for you guys. I will try to keep these summaries very short, and I will tell you what I rated them and whether or not you should read it. Anyways, let's get started. So the first book I read is Dark and Shallow Lies by Jenny Myers Sain. So it's a young adult paranormal tale set in a tiny little Louisiana town, basically the psychic capital of the world. And this girl was born here, but she only comes here during the summer to hang out with this really tight-knit group of about 8 teenagers. But one of them, her best friend, mysteriously disappeared the winter before this summer, and they spend the book basically trying to figure out what happened to her. There's a lot of dark secrets, a lot of really dark paranormal stuff, and I don't normally like paranormal, but I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. It definitely kept you in suspense, but it was really super twisted. Like I said, I don't normally like that, but this book did it for me. I really enjoyed it, and if you like the darker side of things, totally recommend this book. The next book I read was The Queen's Assassin. These are both in April, by the way. I only read 2 books in April. So it's about a girl who wants to become an assassin, and eventually she ends up training as an apprentice under the Queen's assassin himself, Caledon Holt, and they basically go on this adventure like through the country together. The world is very detailed. The history of the world and the story that they tell you about like how everything came to be, very detailed in this book. The pacing was not the best. They were traveling for 3/4 of the book, and the action didn't start until like the last part. So I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend this book, but I did give it like a 4 out of 5. I think I'm actually gonna drop that to 3.5 stars out of 5, just because I don't really remember what happened in the book. Okay, so now we're getting into May. I started May off with a really cute little summer romance, The Summer of Broken Rules by, who's it by? K.L. Walter. So this book takes place over the course of a week. Meredith has just been broken up with. Her sister died a 1.5 years ago, but she grew up going to, what's the place called? Martha's Vineyard. You would think I would know where it took place. Anyways, they grew up going to Martha's Vineyard with her extended family, and she's going back for her cousin's wedding, but it's the first time she's been back after her sister died, and she also just got broken up with, so she doesn't have a date to the wedding, and it's just, it's really strange. But they play this game called Assassin, and during the game, she ends up making a pact with one of the groomsmen, and I will let you figure out how that plays out, although it only plays out over a week, so the romance can seem a little bit rushed. But I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. There are a lot of Taylor Swift references, so if you like that, definitely read this book. The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes is currently the finale to the Inheritance Game series. Now they're releasing the 4th book in August, and I keep meaning to pre-order it and I keep forgetting. But I'm just gonna start off and say I rated this book 5 stars. That shouldn't be a surprise. You all know I love the Inheritance Game series. They're incredibly fast-paced. There are like 80 chapters in the book, but they're all like 3 pages. It makes you feel like you're flying through the book. The romance just continues to get better as the series goes on. I think it tied up things really well as far as the trilogy goes. I'm excited to see where the Brothers Hawthorne takes it. This was definitely a good end to the first 2 books so far. 5 stars, fast-paced, bit of romance, a lot of adventure, high stakes, really fun to read. So next I read As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. Funny story, I have a copy of both Good Girl Bad Blood and As Good as Dead. I ordered this book just like I did the other 2. Long story short, I don't have those books anymore. As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson It was very strange. It seemed almost unrelated to the other two. The only thing that was like related is there was a suspect that was very closely tied into both of the first mysteries as well, and he appears in this one too. But basically, Pip is the summer before college, and she's beginning to get stalked herself. So she's solving her own mystery basically and trying to save her own life, because of course the police won't listen to her. And it gets very, very dark. There are very morally gray areas in the book, which I didn't appreciate. I ended up giving the book a 3 out of 5. I didn't love it that much. But yeah, if you're reading the series, I definitely recommend finishing it off with As Good as Dead. Then I read The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith, and funny story, I actually started this book in March and I only got like 30 pages through it and I kind of DNF'd it. But I finally picked it up again in May and I was like, I'm gonna finish this book. And I think it's because it starts off with a very hard to read scene. It starts off with Eden's sexual assault, and it's just a very hard thing to get through. And then she's so immature throughout freshman and most of sophomore year that it kind of feels like you're reading about a middle schooler. Obviously, I understand that part of her immaturity comes from her trauma and how she's dealing with it, but it's really sweet to see Eden grow up throughout the book. This book, for the topics that it deals with, it was very good, very sad though. I was sobbing my eyes out. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it, definitely would recommend it. Although I would check the trigger warnings before you read this book. So next I checked out a couple books from the library. I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and I loved that book so much. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. It's about a 38-year-old woman who has basically a lot of regrets in her life, and she tries to kill herself, and she ends up in this space between life and death called the Midnight Library. And there are hundreds of thousands of books on the shelves. Each one is one of her lives where she made a slightly different choice, and you get to watch her explore some of those lives. It's a very different book from what I would normally read. Yeah, I would definitely recommend reading it. Great story, great lesson. Now going into June, as you know, as I just said, I'm not the biggest fan of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. However, I decided to pick up 5 Survive by Holly Jackson at the library, and it was so much better. I think, so it takes place over the course of a night. Each hour is broken off into a section of the book. So 6 friends are trapped in an RV that breaks down on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere in South Carolina. Basically, one of them has like this giant secret, and they're being held hostage by people in the woods until that one person shares that really dark secret. It's really twisted, but I really enjoyed it because it's very fast paced. I felt like the plot twist actually made sense, which I don't know. I didn't really feel like some of the ones in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder made sense, but the ones in 5 Survive made sense, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, which I think is the highest thriller that I've rated this year. Now, I am obsessed with the Inheritance games, and once I finished Final Gambit, I was like, I have to find something else to satisfy this craving that I have for the fast-paced books of Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So I picked up The Naturals at my local Barnes & Noble, and I was like, I held on to it for about a month or so, and I was like, I'm not gonna read it, I'm gonna hold on to it, I'm gonna save it for a rainy day. I ended up reading this while I was at church camp. I loved it so much. It's about a group of teenagers who have like these special abilities, basically. Not supernatural or anything, they're just naturally gifted in like reading people or like figuring out if someone's lying. And they're working with a special group in the FBI to solve cold cases. And the main character, her mother was murdered when she was 12, and when she's invited to join this group at the FBI, that's why she joins. It's really fun. It's another like love triangle type thing like the Inheritance games was, where it's like a very subplot of romance and it's also a love triangle, which is very strange, but I really liked it. Eventually the mysteries get too close to home. They end up working on a live case. The reveal at the end is going to shock you. You may be able to guess it. I was not. Really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I would 100% recommend reading it, especially if you like the Inheritance games. So I'm a big fan of Haley Pham, and if you know Haley Pham, you know who she is, you know that she loves Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. She talks about it all the time, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll pick it up. It sounds cute, it looks cute, it has a very cute little cover, and it's a really cute, kind of sort of enemies to lovers, kind of not really, but Liz is obsessed with rom-coms. If you are a rom-com watcher, you will love this book so much. But Liz has a crush on this guy, and so she asks her next door neighbor, who has been like basically like her arch nemesis since she was a child, like, you know, like the classic boy that just is annoying and aggravates you all the time. She basically plots with him how to pick up her crush. He's like helping set her up with her crush in different scenarios, and basically people start thinking that they're dating, and yeah, you can take it from there. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really cute little romance, very fun to read. I very much enjoyed it, and I would very much recommend it. I had never heard of this book before until I saw that video, a video by Haley. Again, obsessed with her. The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. I surprisingly loved this book. This is probably one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far. It's very cultish. So it's basically like the girls in this like group of people, they're sent away when they turn 16, and they're sent away to live in the woods for a year. It's because supposedly when girls turn 16, they develop this magic. They have to go into the woods to get rid of it. It's a very dark, very graphic book, especially for young adult. You can tell that the girl doesn't really understand a lot about how the world actually works because she's grown up in this cult. And so there are a lot of graphic descriptions. You can very much tell that from how she describes everything. It's very interesting, definitely dystopic. I love dystopic. Dystopic's my favorite. But yeah, I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I would recommend it. If you like dystopic, if you don't like dark stuff, then don't read it. It's a very girl power type book. So I finally picked up my very first Emily Henry book. I read Beach Read by Emily Henry, and especially after reading Grace Year, it was very nice to just have like a light, fun romance. It's a rivals to lovers. So January writes basically rom-coms and women's fiction, and Augustus Everett writes darker literary fiction, and they find themselves living in the same beach town in Michigan, and they have this bet where whichever one of them can write a book in the opposite person's genre and sell it first will win. And it is so cute and so fun. I was tearing through this book. I cannot wait to read another Emily Henry book. I loved it so much, and I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was my very first adult romance, and I prefer no spice in my romance. That's why I mostly read young adult. But the spice I haven't read enough adult romances to explain to you exactly what the spice level is in each one. This one was not too bad. It's very easy. It was very easy for me to just skip over the spices. And now we get to the worst book. That's probably one of the best books I've read this year. Now we get to the worst book that I've read this year. And I should have probably read the Goodreads reviews before I bought it. But I read The Fear by Natasha Preston, and I was like, okay, it's decent, but I feel like she can do better. So I'm going to pick up a different one, and I'm going to see if I like it, because I really want to like her. Her books are very pretty, like the covers are pretty, they're very easy to collect, very cheap. So I picked up The Lake by Natasha Preston. And it's about these two girls, and they used to go to this camp when they were younger, but something happened at the camp when they were 8 years old. And now they're like going back to be counselors, and basically someone knows what they did when they were 8 years old, and they basically want to punish them for it. It sounds great, right? And no, it sucked. It sucked so much. The character development was not great. I just did not like the character development. The ending ruined the entire book. Now, I was able to get through it fairly quickly just because it was fast-paced, but nothing was really connected. It felt a little bit choppy and just all over the place, and the ending is the worst ending I've ever read of any book in my life. Like, I know thrillers are not supposed to be happy endings, but they're not supposed to be like this. They're not. They're just not. And right after reading this book, I gave it a 3 out of 5, and I was like, that is not right. So I dropped it to a 2.5 out of 5. And as I'm making this video, I'm going to tell you, I rated it a 2 out of 5. I'm too scared to give it a 1-star review, but I didn't like it. The only reason that I'm not giving it a 1-star review is because it was very fast-paced, and I didn't necessarily not want to pick it up. 2 out of 5, don't recommend. If you're gonna pick up Natasha Preston, read the Goodreads reviews and find one that has decent reviews, because this one does not. We were out of town for 12 days in June, and basically we ended up getting stuck. Our flights got canceled, and so I was like, I had to go to Barnes & Noble because I've read all my books that I brought with me, and I need to go buy one more. So I picked up Kyland by Mia Sheridan. I dropped $17 on it at Barnes & Noble because I'm crazy. Don't know why, I would normally do that, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and the cover is so pretty, and I loved the idea of the book, so I picked it up. It's another adult romance, and it's about 2 high school seniors in this tiny little like hillbilly town in Kentucky, and they're very poor, live in poverty, and the only way that they can get out of this like coal mining hillbilly town is this scholarship. It's a full ride scholarship to a 4-year school, and they're both trying to win the scholarship. Meanwhile, they end up kind of falling in love with each other, and some things happen, some decisions are made. It sounds like it would be more academic, like they'd focus more on the academic part of the storyline. They actually didn't. It was a very romance-driven plot, but I got through it very quickly. I think it only took me 2 days to read. I read it mostly on the airplane, and it was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5. The only reason it's not a 5 out of 5 for me is because the spies in this book, their relationship seemed to revolve more around the spies versus like the actual romance, which I didn't really appreciate, and it was a lot harder for me to skip in this book. I did enjoy it. That's part of the reason I got through it so fast, is because I was skipping a lot. But I did enjoy it, and I think their romance was cute. And yeah, 4 out of 5. It was good for my first Mia Sheridan book, and I will probably pick her up again. So that is all the 14 books that I read second quarter of the year, and I'm well into my July reading. And yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want more longer videos, please comment, because it's hard for me to film them because you guys don't watch them as much. But if you like them and you want more of them, just let me know, and I would try my best to make more of them. Anyways, that is all for today, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.